Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to Getting Your Canvas Space Ready for Winter 2023. My name is Jennifer Fong. I'm an instructional designer here at DTEI. I'm here with two other instructional designers, Bo Choi and Fanny Tsai. And today we're really excited to be talking to you about how to set up an effective course space in Canvas. So we're going to put the link to the presentation slides in the chat so you can follow along with the presentation today. You will see it's also right up here. It is https://tinyurl.com/MV as in Victor, Y as in yo-yo, W as in water, 7BRS. And if we could throw that into the chat, that'd be awesome also, right? Okay, so we have a very packed agenda today. So if I start speaking too quickly, please just let me know. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to spend a few minutes just thinking about course space design and what elements make for an effective course space. After that, we're going to cover several essential course design elements in detail, and we're going to introduce you to our course template, which you can use as an option to implement those design elements. So throughout the workshop, you're going to have time to start thinking about how you would like to implement the course design elements in your sandbox, and you'll also have a chance to talk to your colleagues and an instructional designer about all of your ideas. And then we're going to close out with some important accessibility considerations and best practices in Canvas course design. And then for the final 30 minutes or so of the workshop, you'll have the opportunity to really start implementing what we've discussed in your Canvas sandbox, and you'll get some hands-on working time with an instructional designer. And since this is such a nice small group, you can have many opportunities to ask questions. So once again, if you do have questions as the presentation is going along, please feel free to just place them in the chat, and we'll be sure to address them either during our breakout or the Q&A session at the end. Okay. So the first thing I'd like to do is have us take just a brief moment to think about course-based design, and please answer this question. What elements of an online course space do you think are important in facilitating student learning? Okay, and you can answer this question at the same link you were at before. All right, so once again, if we can just think about what elements of a course space, an online course space, do you think are important in facilitating student learning? If you could please answer once again at pollev.com/DTEI support. Or if you feel comfortable, unmuting, you can do that too. Right. So when you're creating an online space for your students, what are some of the things that you think that you would want to incorporate in this online space? Okay, good. Discussion posts. Okay, very nice. All right, having some sort of area where the students can, collaborate with each other, especially in an online course space, right? Okay, anything else? Okay, quiet group here, no worries. All right, so yeah, absolutely. Once again, discussion posts are a great element to incorporate. So in thinking about what course design components are really essential to facilitating student learning and which ones were most important for us to cover in this workshop, we landed on these specific elements. So first, there needs to be an inviting homepage, right, with a clean and clear course navigation that's really logical, easy for students to use. Next, we felt like there should be a well-organized and consistent course structure where students will know what to expect from week to week. The course also needs to have a student onboarding or welcome module to get students ready for the course. The assignments and assessments should be very thoughtfully designed to be well-organized and transparent. And finally, the course needs to meet accessibility standards, right? So today's workshop, we're going to focus on these essential elements, and we're going to be showing you how to implement them in Canvas. So this slide contains a table of contents, and it's just for your reference so that you can easily refer back to the different course design elements that we're going to talk about today. And so that when you're looking at this 65 slide deck in the future, you can easily jump to the sections you need. All right, so the very first element that we'd like to start with is how to design an inviting course homepage with a very clear course navigation. All right, so once again, let's think about this. If you put yourself in the position of your students, what homepage elements? We're just focusing on just the homepage. Once you enter the course, or once your students enter your course, what would you like your students to see first? Or what do you think they would expect to see? You can just type in the text chat in Zoom, or if you're comfortable to unmute your mic and say something, you can. What's the first thing that you would usually want your students to be able to see or click on or do when they first enter your course? Any ideas?
I think it's important to have kind of like a link to the syllabus on the homepage.
Perfect. Yes.
Office hours. So kind of just like essential information. I had one professor kind of have like links to each week, which I thought was helpful. And it kind of went to the module of each week.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. So syllabus link, office hour link, all those essential links that you know that students are going to need to go back to frequently, right? And also some sort of navigation on the front homepage where they can easily jump from week to week rather than having to scroll through like a very long list of modules, right? So absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay.
Jordy also shared deadlines.
Oh, deadlines. Okay, cool. So I guess my chat also is not working because I can't.
No, actually, Jordy, I think you private chat.
Oh, okay.
So it's okay.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but
okay, awesome. Thank you, Bo. Thank you, Jordy. Yeah, so deadlines to assignments, right? Perfect. Yes. So that's something also that, you know, may be helpful to have front and center. Okay, very good. All right, cool. All right, so keeping those elements and some of those suggestions in mind, right? So let's take a look at some sample home pages from different types of courses and see what elements they've incorporated. Okay, so to the left, there is a marine biology course, and to the right is an Asian American studies. You'll see that in these samples, both include this essential course information with a very nice banner image, right? So, you know, straight off, you know, who the professor is, what quarter is this, what type of course is this? Is it going to be synchronous online? Is it going to be in person? Is it asynchronous online? Right? Very important to be front and center so students, you know, understand your course. Oops. The marine bio course also has this nice row of quick links that students can use to navigate to items such as the course syllabus, office hours, those important class links, right? The marine bio course also includes this kind of welcome message with a short course description. Both courses do have that navigation area that was just mentioned, with one of them being based on topics or modules and the other being based on weeks. And the Asian American Studies course also has an additional area at the bottom that includes instructor information and also a course FAQ section for like those commonly asked questions that may appear in your course a lot. So these are all really great elements to include on a homepage. Here are two more samples for you. On this slide, both courses have their navigation buttons right along the top here. And while the computer science course has quick link buttons along the left, the astronomy course includes it right below the welcome paragraph. Notice also the different types of quick links that were chosen. So both did have course syllabus as number one, but then while one placed more emphasis on meeting your instructors, office hours, you know, required software, the other had a course schedule, online textbook. So that's kind of where you can put like your due dates, online textbook, and this one had an astronomy website linked, right? So something that they go to a lot. So there are a lot of creative ways that you can customize your home pages to really make them useful, appealing, easy to navigate, and student friendly, right? But you do want to take some time to really think carefully about which elements and links are most important for your students to have quick access to. You don't want to overwhelm them either with too much. Right? So in a nutshell, here is a list of elements that you may potentially want to think about for your homepage. Under other ideas, I do want to point out two other unique things that I've seen that instructors have implemented. So some will actually change out a section of their homepage each week to provide timely events that relate to the course content, or they'll provide a list of items due that week, exactly, Jordy, what you mentioned. So this does take a little bit of extra legwork, but it keeps the homepage, exciting and timely for your students. Right? Okay. So you may be thinking, okay, that looks great. Those, home pages, they look wonderful, but how exactly do I create a homepage like that in my Canvas course? So we've made the process easy for you by creating a Canvas template that has a variety of homepage designs in it. So from this slide, so if you do open up the slides, you can click on the links to take a look at our 5-week version of the template, or our 10-week version of the template. Okay. So right now you do not have editing access. You're looking at it basically from a student's perspective, because we will need to, in order for you to have editing access, you'll need to export and import this template into your sandbox later. But for now, everything I'm going to be talking about, you can just follow along with me by viewing the elements of the template. And I also want to throw out here at this point, you do not have to use this template at all. You may already have a homepage that you're currently using in your course that you love. So don't feel obligated to use the designs found in here. But I do want to still show everyone what the template contains, and maybe you can use it to gain some ideas for your own course design, or maybe elements that you want to put into your current homepage, right? So I'm going to stick with this 10-week template as an example. So from this homepage, all right, you can see that this specific one has this module navigation, instructor information below, course FAQs below that, all right? And if you go into the modules section, okay, so once again, you're not going to have all of these buttons because right now you don't have editing access, but you should be able to click on modules. All right, and you'll be able to see the 4 different homepage templates that we've designed. And you can kind of browse through them, take a look, and see the different, how each one is a little bit different. So this one has not really a module navigation, but a weekly navigation, right? Still has those 2 areas for instructors and course FAQs. Still has the areas for the quick links. Okay, I'm gonna go back. This one is a weekly module navigation, where you have navigation buttons up along the top. And you also have all these kind of quick links on the left here. The benefit of this specific template is that for these quick links, if I go into editing mode, so once again, you can't edit right now, but you can just kind of look, and then we'll explore this together later on during the hands-on time. All right, but let's say this is not enough for me. I need a lot more links than this. You can just hit enter, and it'll create more buttons as you go. All right, so that's one of the benefits of this specific template. Cancel that. Okay, now in terms of color structure for this navigation, this is what's static, which means you can't, because we've designed this in the code, this is what you can't change. But what you can change, and I'll go back into editing mode to show you, is any text that you see. Okay, so all of this, you can easily, type whatever you need to into here. The logo, these are all images. So any type of icon, image, you can easily change it out. So the banner here, if I click on it, right, I click insert image, all right, and you click on, let's say you have your own image you'd like to put here, right? You can upload your own image, or you can go into Unsplash. And Unsplash is a attribution-free kind of photo library that's built into Canvas. And actually, it also exists outside of Canvas, so you can type in Unsplash. But let's say I have an astronomy class, lots of really nice photography for you to choose from. And remember, if you are replacing a banner, choose something that's wide rather than tall, right? But you can easily just select one, submit, and it will replace the banner that's there. Okay. And once again, yes, all of this text you can edit, all of these button text you can edit. All right. We just don't really necessarily recommend that you you change up these buttons here. While you can edit this, the way for this template that's designed is it kind of goes nicely in a row. But when you do start using this homepage, you're going to want to link this up to whatever elements, and we'll talk about this in a second, but you can link these buttons to wherever you need it to go. Okay. All right. And the very last design we have there for you is it's called customizable navigation. And this is for people who need more or less actually than the buttons that you had seen. So for this one, the way it's set up, and that's why it's called customizable navigation, you can add buttons, as many buttons as you need. All right. And you can delete any buttons that you don't need just by hitting the backspace button here. All right. So let's say I only need 8 weeks. Okay. So you can customize the navigation in that sense, but the other templates you cannot. All right. So each one has its own little quirks to be aware of. Okay. But you'll get the opportunity later on to be able to play with this. For now, I just would like you to follow along as I'm pointing these things out to you, and you can view them as I'm going. All right. Okay. So I'm going to pause here for a second. I just want to see, are there any questions so far regarding the template pages, what you've seen, these homepage designs? Okay.
I'm really excited. This is great.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Sorry, my camera, I noticed I disappeared again. My camera keeps blinking in and out, and now it's not even letting me turn it on. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so we're going to first talk about other elements of course design before we get into really working with the template. All right.
Jennifer, I think Claudia
Yes.
has a question.
Oh,
Right,
yes.
Claudia?
Claudia.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
sorry.
wondering, this is slightly unrelated, but I noticed when I click on my courses, a
Mhm.
lot of the ones from the last 2 quarters are still there, even though I unstart them. Then this,
Mhm.
and in the past they always went into this other list, so they don't come up. Do you know why that is?
In the dashboard you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so the past enrollment versus courses, and so I have these lingering courses in.
Okay. Later on, we're going to have a breakout, and you can definitely talk to an instructional designer. You can even share your screen and they can help you figure out what's going on. Yeah. All right. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to go back to my slides here. So the next area that I'd like to focus on is course structure and organization, right? Which basically is how you would like your students to be able to navigate all the content inside of your course. So remember, we talked about having this really nice navigation area, right, for your homepage. But what exactly do these buttons link up to in Canvas? So Canvas has 2 main options when it comes to structuring your course content, which in turn then translates to the 2 main ways that you can link your homepage navigation buttons, right? And so the first option is setting up a course structure through Canvas modules and linking these navigation buttons then to the different modules that you create. So that's where you click on week 1, it'll go to the week 1 module, all right? And the second option is to set up a course structure through Canvas pages. And then what you would do is you would link week 1 to a specific Canvas week 1 page. So you'd end up creating, let's say you have 10 weeks, you'd end up creating 10 Canvas pages that you'd link each one individually up to. So this would end up having more of a website feel. I will say it takes a little bit more legwork, but some people like this option, right? So let me show you what these 2 options could look like. Right. So if you were going to structure your course using Canvas modules, you would be building all of your course content directly in that Canvas module tool, which is right here. Okay. Right. So you would click on modules, and these are Canvas modules. Right. Flip back. So But how you structure your Canvas modules can also be very different. So here we take a screenshot of 2 different examples of how you can structure your content. In the first example, you'll see that all of the content is organized linearly. So this shows students what they need to complete before class, during class, after class. And this can be really good for hybrid or flipped classrooms. In the second example, you'll see that the content and all the tasks are organized by content type, which could work for courses where there's not really a need to complete the items linearly. I have seen more of this in grad school courses where it's more of, you do it on your own time, but make sure you just have all of this stuff done, but at least there is some sort of organization in the module. Right. And the most important thing to remember here is that when you're setting up these modules is you want to have a consistent structure from week to week so that students really know what to expect every week. Right. Also note that both modules have what we call a weekly roadmap. And this is nice because it typically contains like an introduction to the week's topics, learning objectives, and basically like an online or a schedule, not online, an outline of what students are expected to do that week, right? And you can have your due dates in there. So we suggest having some sort of items such as this weekly roadmap or some getting started to guide the students' learning and expectations for that week. So to create this type of really clear looking structure in Canvas, because we have seen many people will just throw items in and sometimes it can become this overwhelming list, right? So we do recommend that you take advantage of Canvas's text headers, right? So these are text headers where they don't link to anything. They're just there as kind of text indicators. And then also indentations is another thing to take advantage of in Canvas. So these indentations will help your students be able to delineate, what goes under this section, what goes under this section. And you can also use emojis. So these little icons here are emojis to liven up the space, and provide some visual cues as to, what that item is. There is a link that's provided on this slide to emojipedia.org, which you can then easily just copy and paste emojis. They work just like text. Copy and paste it into your text field, and then it'll show up right there. To save time, we also recommend that you set up a structure for one module and then just duplicate it for the remaining weeks. So for example, let's say you set up your readings, so these little text headers, instead of having to type them again and again in every module you create, set it up into one. Once you've decided, okay, this is a nice structure, you can duplicate it. And then you duplicate it 10 times, and then you can just start plugging your content in after that, right? So if you go to the module section right here again, okay, inside of the Canvas template, all right, and if you scroll down, you'll be able to see these sample modules that we've set up, right? And you can directly, use this for your course if you'd like, or, just customize it to whatever your needs are, right? So using modules inside Canvas to structure your course is your first option. Okay. The second option is to structure out your course using Canvas pages. And what this means is that all of your course content is built on individual Canvas pages corresponding to a week or a specific topic. And then you'll link your buttons, right up to those specific pages. So inside the Canvas template, you'll actually find that in addition to the homepage designs that we've created, we've set up this weekly roadmap page design. And you can use this weekly roadmap to accomplish this type of structure in Canvas. So I'm going to jump into Canvas again. So up here, back up in all of our template designs, there is a weekly roadmap page, right? And so envision from your home page, let's say they click on week 1, they go to this week 1 weekly roadmap, then they can fill out all of this content, overview, learning objective. You can fill it out directly here, and students can see everything they need to do right on one page, all right? Okay. Back to my slides. All right, so like I mentioned, once again, all of those different Canvas page designs that we've built for you that you can use to structure out your course can be found in that module section under the Canvas template designs page or module, sorry. You'll see them right underneath. So we have the homepage designs here, then all of the other ones that you have that you can implement into the module are right there also, right? Okay. And I also want to mention that you can actually combine the use of these different Canvas pages with the Canvas module, right? So even though you are using Canvas modules as, what you're linking the homepage buttons to, you can still use these pages and incorporate them into your module, right? So for example, once again, we've put our weekly roadmap page as the first item in this module here. And then we have a readings and other materials page, a lecture videos page. So lots of different designs that you can play around with and look at, all right? And so we don't have time to actually go through every single one of those designs. So that's why the next few slides in this slideshow, they're all hidden on your end, but they will show you how to kind of edit. There are specific little things here and there you might want to be, might want to pay attention to as you're editing each type of page. Some of them require a little bit more legwork and and one of them does require a little bit of HTML because in order to embed videos, you need to go into the HTML, but it'll tell you right on those slides and on the pages itself, what you need to do. So those are there for your reference. Okay. So I'm just going to pause right here for a second. Are there any questions so far?
Can you repeat how you get to the emojis?
Oh, yes, sure. That's good. One of my favorite parts. Emoji. So if you go to emojipedia.org, there's a lot of different emoji websites, but if you go to emojipedia.org, okay. All right. And thank you. I think it's got linked in the chat again. All right. And let's say you just want a book, type in book, and then you'll see a book here. And you can just copy this. It's really simple. Copy. And let's say we go into our modules. So it works just like a regular text. So let's say I was going to edit this text. You can paste this right here. So it's just copy, paste. Very simple.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, the emojis make it a lot of fun. Okay, Anne-Marie, yes.
I'm assuming the emojis are read by text screen readers.
They are read by text screen readers. So I will say yes. So choose ones like this will say house and then homepage template or something like that. And it'll say like pin weekly roadmap. Though I will say some of them may choose carefully. So if it doesn't relate, people could get very confused. Soccer ball, weekly navigation.
My dad uses emojis in a way that other people do not. And so I look at it and I think, Dad, you don't know what that is at all. Right.
Right. So I would hope for the most part, we would stick with book, video,
Gotcha.
things that make a little bit more sense. But yes,
that face doesn't mean
that
nothing. No, Dad, that face
doesn't mean that. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But good question. All right. Any other questions? Okay, cool.
Emily, if you look like a bowl right now, choose the crying face.
That crying face.
Right.
That will be not make sense for the view. I mean, the text reader. They will say, "What is?" Because they using some coding number, so it's not,
okay.
So just choose more feel sense when you scan.
Objects that make sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Emotions
are hard.
It's really hard.
Usually you using the semicolon and
I use a C instead of a parenthesis. So
that will be they didn't know what is that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I still I will stick to nouns and not emotions. Yeah. But I did have a question. So my experience with Canvas and watching students use Canvas is there can exist these great pages that the students don't know about
Mhm.
because they didn't click in the right place, so they didn't know it existed. And you've given us a few options, kind of this module way and this web page way. And I'm wondering if you have a sense, I know this is kind of a weird way of not asking the question, so let me try. What's the way that you think is going to minimize the chances of that happening, of them missing, of not knowing they've clicked on everything? Or the flip side, they've clicked on everything, one thing so many times that they feel like they've seen it all and they haven't seen it all. Digital is just really tricky in that way. Do you have thoughts?
It can be tricky. So one of the things with a lot of people choose modules because they like that type of linear feel where, okay, I've completed this item, this item, this item. But sometimes, like, I will say sometimes if you have things also linked in here, that's where, but that may not either be reflected in that module or you've got too many things going on. Then yes, that's where it can get confusing, because let's say you listed an assignment in here, but you didn't list it out in the modules page. Now that can cause confusion. So I do think that try to simplify. I think simple is best, right? So I know we put a lot of options here, but like the weekly roadmap, really for me, I think I would just put like an overview paragraph and learning objectives, and just maybe a brief description, like, these are some of the tasks, but how to navigate and like the tasks that they need to click on, still stick with if you decide to use modules, still do it in here. So it's not super, super confusing as to, am I clicking it inside the roadmap or I'm clicking it here? That's where I've seen some confusion there. Now, when we set up this weekly roadmap, really it was because it was that this supports mostly that single page, right? I personally like the single page design. I like where this week goes to this page, bam, that's it. Everything you need is on this page. That's my preference,
right.
But it takes a little bit of legwork to keep up, right?
Why?
Because let's say you're linking things. So I will point out, actually, some people forget to check the links here. Though that could happen in modules too. If a link breaks, right, it'll still be there, but when it comes to certain file links, that also, it's very straightforward to insert a file into a module. For many people, it's a more straightforward process. You click that plus button, your file's inserted into your module on the design
Okay.
end. Yeah, not on the student end, on the design end. While here, right, you're inserting, and I think for some, they're just not as familiar, not as comfortable working with, let's say you need this to link to, right, a file, right? You need to go to files, you need to choose your file, but you also have to make sure you type out whatever it is that your the file is, right? So you have to make sure this is a New York Times article, this is a blah, blah. So there's things to type, like all of these things you have to physically type and then link, type and then link.
Jennifer?
Modules, it's just
Jennifer?
a plus and then it just goes in.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
when you link the file, you are not necessary to type. You just make the link, the file will be there. But only one thing, when you set up your file name, you need to make the sense for the file name.
Right.
Okay?
So, right. My fear with saying you can just link is if something doesn't have a clear name and you're just linking it.
Yeah.
Right. And not everybody does very descriptive names for their.
I used to do like reading 1, reading 2.
Yeah, you will
Right,
confuse everyone. So if
not
you are, so I always will encourage the faculty, when we are doing save the file name, even anything, so we need to think about more things. So for example, you cannot say Article 1, Article 2. So you will, what is the title of that article? For example, you say, could something
author year.
Yes, yes, that is personally, I always encourage the faculty to do that. In that ways, when you are linked to your file, you are not necessary to type, because sometimes we typing the things will make mistake. Actually, sometimes I will mistyping, right? So if I just have the file correctly, I just make the link. And Canvas, Emily, so Canvas, this is good things. They will make the link directly for the file name. So you are not necessary to type.
Right.
Okay.
So
that is my personal preference. And
when I set up a website before Canvas was a thing, when we had EE websites,
yes,
that's how I wound up doing it. So I'd have web pages for readings. Oh, so we haven't talked about that, having a web page with all of the course readings, a web page with all of the
right. So we have these pages, for example, weekly readings and other materials that's set up where all of your readings, right? Let's say you have, and this was designed for instructors that have a lot of readings, and rather than, that's the thing with the module. Let's say I have an instructor I've worked with who does like 10 readings a week. Imagine how long these modules now get. And when students are looking at that, it's like, whoa, that can be pretty intimidating. But now if you've put it all into just a weekly readings page and they click on it, then they know, okay, well, these are all the readings I've got to accomplish for this week.
Yeah, so Emery, if you have the more questions, so maybe we can have I think this today, Jennifer will leave the longer for us to support everyone if you have some, individual question. So would you mind we move on to the next?
Oh yeah, I wanted to see if you had like that.
Yeah, these are great questions.
I'm good.
These are awesome questions.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So for the next let's just do 5 minutes. And because it's such a small group, originally we were going to break out, but we don't need to break out. There's only 3 of us here, which is actually great. So we just kind of want to have everybody discuss, how are you thinking about designing your homepage? And Anne-Marie, actually, that kind of segues right into here, which is great because you're thinking maybe a web page kind of layout. So that's perfect, actually. So we'll count that as part of the time we've used to discuss already. And also, what elements are you thinking about implementing in terms of structure, in terms of which homepage elements, all right? And, and feel free to share out loud. So Claudia, Jessica, any other thoughts? Or Anne-Marie, any other thoughts in terms of what you're thinking about doing? Any questions you may have for your colleagues? Any ideas you'd like to get from somebody else?
So I use the modules, and I definitely have the problem that you just described, where my modules get excessively long and then kind of hard to navigate.
Yeah.
And my kind of landing page looks really boring because so I'm interested in the templates.
Yeah, that's awesome. And once again, the templates are an option, but if this is a little bit complicated, you can also, simplify by just doing, you can type out or a bulleted list of just the readings. So the main point there is you're trying to manage your modules, right? Not have it be so long. And while the template does facilitate that, for others, they were like, oh, I just want to do a bulleted list, but at least it's still in like a separate page where it's not causing your module to get so long. Yeah. Okay, cool. Any other thoughts, ideas you want to share? Okay. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next element because I do want to get to our hands-on working time too. So student onboarding elements. Okay, so for this module, you want to think about what are some things that you want your students to accomplish, do in order to prepare for your course, right? So this is before week 1. We're not getting into any type of learning content yet. Many people just give a syllabus, which is fine, but we do suggest having some sort of module where either the syllabus stuff is broken up, because honestly, how many of your students are really reading your full syllabus? We hope they are. We really do. But it's nice to actually still break that up a little bit. And that's one way to do that is by kind of taking out certain components and putting it into this onboarding module. Okay. All right, so I do want us just to reflect a little bit, once again, just have a little bit of a conversation. What are some things that you currently do include in your student onboarding module, or what are you thinking about including? What do you think, could help your students get started?
So I used like a little quiz to test them on the parts of the syllabus that I think are important.
Good.
But so I kind of forced them to read the syllabus.
Yeah.
I don't think they like that very much.
I think, you know what, a lot of people do it. So I think hopefully they'll eventually get used to it. But yeah, so like some sort of a syllabus quiz, great way to get them to, read the syllabus. Awesome. And, in that quiz, you could also ask them other questions, like just about their learning needs, their learning styles, and it could be a way that you phrase the question in that, yes, well, these are some of the technologies that you need that we've listed in the syllabus, but then a follow-up question could also be, is it difficult for you to get these technologies, or how can we help you get these technologies, or something like that, right? Something else to see, to take that a step further and really ask your students for their needs, which I think they'll appreciate.
Yeah, so I have like a link to the course materials and the fact that they need a laptop and where to get one on campus, and
awesome.
Some waivers that I need them to sign before the whole thing starts.
Perfect.
Some videos on how to study that I get from you guys.
Oh, nice. I love that.
So
yeah, cool. All great ideas. Yeah, these are great. Anything else? Okay, cool. All right. So we do have this long list of items that you may want to consider including in your student onboarding module. Please don't think you have to include everything. We just threw everything on here. But it's a variety of items for you to consider. But just to point out a few of them, once again, for your syllabus, you can kind of break down some of these items. I know a lot of people kind of throw pretty much this, and the resources, your schedule, policies, and resources all into that syllabus, which you can still do. However, it's also nice to kind of break it out in the module. So you could have a separate page in the module that has the schedule that's separated out. Maybe policies that are particularly important for your course can be separated out. Those help resources, right? So that it's easier for them to navigate, and so they don't always have to comb through your syllabus again to find those things, right? Having office hour information, and particularly a schedule or sign up, is really nice. I know some people do prefer it, and I understand everybody is very busy. So, people prefer like a fixed schedule. This is my office hour. Come if you come at this time if you need help. But maybe being a little bit flexible and saying, these are some options, and here's a scheduler that you can use to schedule. And it's easy for you because then you don't necessarily have to hold all those times. You can see, because once they schedule that time, then you just know, oh, I do have somebody coming in to see me that day. I don't have to be fixed in a certain position for a certain amount of time. So, there's benefits on both parts. We also like to suggest including some sort of, like I said, pre-course survey where you get to know your students a little bit more, ask about their needs, some people like to do what's called like an emergency contact card. Like, if I really can't get in touch with you, is there an alternative, email or in other way that we can, communicate? So it's just kind of a nice way and to show your students that, I do care about, you want to more, or getting to know what your needs are, your learning needs are, on a more personal level also. And for community building, it's actually always fun to have some sort of icebreaker discussion board, or just some sort of informal learning space, such as whether it's Slack, Discord, or a Canvas discussion board, where you can say, hey, if you have any questions, just throw them here. And that way, a lot of people can have the same questions and I can answer them on this board. So just some ideas for that onboarding module. Okay. So, how, once again, can we make this happen in Canvas, right? So depending on how you decide to structure your course, whether it's through modules or through pages, right? When you click on that start button, that's what we're talking about in that onboarding, start, right? There's the two ways, once again, that you can structure that. So in the sample on top, right, this comes out of our modules, and you can see it once again in our template under this, we call it week 0. Okay, and it can have this getting started page, an office hour page. So we've set up these, once again, these page designs for you that you can use, right? Office hours. Okay. And then an introduce yourself discussion board, some surveys for them, or, this can be combined into one. But what's nice about this being here is that you can go in here and you can see what are some sample survey questions that you may want to consider putting into your course also. So you can kind of read this over. Okay. All right. And the sample below here, right, is that single page layout again. So for that one, you could just use the getting started page design, which is right here, which has everything just on one page. You could do a welcome video or welcome to, yeah, the course video. Okay. And lots of sections here for you to use. I do want to mention with these certain pages, what we've done, I'll go into the edit to show you, is that you can also delete any sections you don't need. So just by hitting delete, you just can't add sections. Okay. All right. Okay, moving on. Next section. Assignment and assessment design. So we thought about the homepage, course structure, and how we want to introduce students to our course. So the next element then is we want to think about the different types of assignments that we may want to include in our course and how to use Canvas really to organize those assignments, right? So Canvas's assignments tool has three main features called discussions, quizzes, and online assignments. And you can use these features to create all different types of assignments in your course. On this slide, you'll see there's a list of some assignment ideas that Canvas can support. And I mean, there's a lot more examples, but these are some of the more common ones, such as discussion boards, weekly homework quizzes, a weekly check-in poll, peer review assignments, right? And just as an FYI, also, there are a lot of other third-party tools that do integrate with Canvas that can expand this list even further. So lots of options with Canvas. Canvas also lets you create graded and ungraded assignments and group assignments. But the main thing to keep in mind with Canvas, though, and I'll go back into the template to show you. So if we go into assignments, the assignments that you create here, the graded assignments you create here, dictates what shows up in your gradebook, right? So all of the columns that you'll see here follow the assignment area, okay? So today, if you were to, let's say you wanted to add a grading column just for class attendance, you actually still do need to create an assignment for that, even though they're not submitting anything, right? So if you create an assignment and you call it attendance, okay, and we go into more options, just make sure, and I believe it does default, it's a no submission assignment because students aren't submitting anything. You just need a placeholder, and let's say attendance is 20 points or something like that, right? You need a placeholder though for Canvas to be able to have this show up in the gradebook. So you still do have to create an assignment, placeholder assignment that's no submission in order for that to happen, right? Okay, so the other thing you want to do is you do want to set up assignment groups in Canvas to organize that assignment list, because you could create lots and lots of assignments, but if it's not organized, one, it's not easy for you, but two, also it's easier, especially if you need to, okay, it's not about easier, but you actually do need to create groups if you want to weight your assignment. So if you're doing 20% class participation, 40% discussions or something like that, then you do have to create these groups and put your assignments underneath those groups, right? And if you click on the three dots right here, you'll see there's assignment groups weights, and that's going to take you to the area where you can say, you know, what percentage each group is worth. And there's also a nice little nifty tool here called Edit Assignment Dates. And what that allows you to do, and I can show you from here inside of Canvas, if you click Edit Assignment Dates, you can actually batch update assignment. So let's say you originally had all of your discussion boards due Tuesday, and suddenly you decide, oh, I'm going to move it to Wednesday, right? Now you can select your discussion, or you can select your discussion, sorry, and then you can just adjust it here. So this is now, I'm moving it all to Wednesday, right? 14th, 21. This is a lot easier than clicking into each individual assignment, clicking, you know, and trying to go scrolling down, going and hitting save. Makes the process a lot faster. So definitely take advantage of this tool, right? Okay. And finally, we'd like to very briefly introduce you to the concept of transparent assignment design. So the quote on the top of this page basically captures what it is in a nutshell. So transparent assignment design is the process of designing assignments so that the process of learning is more explicit for students. In other words, transparent assignments shed light on the assignment's purpose, task, and criteria. So how can we make our assignments more transparent in Canvas? So first, we want to make sure that we include a detailed assignment description that covers not only what students need to do, but why they're doing it. How does it relate to the learning objectives? Give them a purpose, not just like this is busy work, right? There has to be a reason why. We also want to make sure we include how they're being evaluated. So one way to accomplish this is to take advantage of Canvas rubrics. So in Canvas on the left side menu, there's a rubric option. If you click on rubrics, you can create different rubrics for all of your different assignments, and then you can attach those rubrics to your assignments, and you can choose to have students be able to see those rubrics. And that way they can you're being explicitly clear of the criteria of how you're evaluating your students' work. And in turn, you're giving them a much better idea of your expectations. You know, you're showing them what they really need to do to succeed, right? Okay. So in other words, you're being transparent. So before we move on to our next topic, I just want to pause here. Are there any questions related to assignments? Okay, cool. All right. So the last course design element that we want to talk about today is accessibility. And it's almost impossible to cover all accessibility considerations in one workshop. So in this next section, we've really just picked out some of the most common ones that you will encounter as you design in Canvas. So let's talk about some accessibility do's and don'ts. So first, we need to consider semantic structure. So this applies not only to Canvas pages, but really any word processing program that you may use. So do please follow a hierarchical structure when structuring your pages. So notice in this first example, it goes from H2 is the biggest, big title, then H3, okay, is the next subtitle. And then under H3, you've got two little subtitles, H4. And then if you were going to have another subtitle section, back at this level, it would become H3 again. All right. So please follow a structure. All right. Do not skip things and do not use certain headings just to get smaller or larger text. It's not there for you to adjust the font size. It's there because those with visual impairments, they rely on this nice course, this clear course structure in order to be able to navigate the page easily. Like, we can see the headings easily, but they can't see the headings. So for their screen reader, they would like to jump between headings so they know what are the sections on the page, right? But if you don't make it clear yourself, then the screen reader can't understand it. In terms of color contrast, as you're editing the template, do make sure your text color and any background color or highlights you use have sufficient contrast. You cannot really eyeball this. For example, this bright red on bright yellow highlight. A lot of people like to use this because it really does stand out, but actually it fails accessibility. And for those with some color blindness, that is not enough contrast for them to be able to see what the words are. So on this slide, we've linked a free color contrast checker that you can use, like not just for Canvas, but for any other thing that you design. But Canvas does have built-in accessibility checkers that will also point out these issues. So right over here, you'll see there's lots of issues here, right? So just be careful with your color choice. In terms of hyperlinks, if you have any hyperlinks on your Canvas pages, please use simple descriptive link text rather than full URLs. This is because screen readers will read every letter out loud in a URL, which you can imagine if you're listening to it and it's saying http:// that's very tedious. You do not want to hear that. All right. So just use descriptive text link. All right. And then put the URL in it. For images, do please provide alternative text for images that are both informative or that are informative or functional. So what this means is that if the image or graphic conveys information or tells the user to perform an action, like an up arrow on a button, okay, then you need to have alternative text because they need to know that they need to click on it, right? So alternative text can be inserted when you upload an image into Canvas directly, but it also needs to be accurate and succinct, but not overly simplified or redundant. So in this example here, this cat conveys how I feel during the winter, right? If all you have for the alternative text is image of a cat, well, that doesn't convey anything. You know, somebody who's visually impaired, they can't see that. They just, okay, what does a cat have to do with how you feel, right? But if you say a black striped cat with yellow eyes is peeking out from under a blanket, they get a, you know, better idea of, oh, okay, what the cat's doing. And maybe that'll convey more of that feeling like, oh, you know, it's cold, that's why they're inside of a blanket, right? So just be accurate and succinct. And finally, the last element I want to review are tables. Do use data tables to present tabular information, and do caption your table and identify row headers and any column headers. The tables, however, should not be used to create structure or design elements. And we do actually see this happen pretty frequently because unfortunately Canvas doesn't give you a good way to be able to put things next to each other. And so, you know, for many people, they're, oh, well, I'll just put in a table. But the problem is actually the screen readers will try to read this like it's content, like it's actually content in or data in a table. So it can be very confusing for them. So we do not, or you should not use a table for visual design. Right. So those are all the basic accessibility do's and don'ts. Many, many more are out there, but you know, for the purposes of this workshop and the ones that we felt were most important to point out, those are the ones that we have for you. Remember, you don't actually have to remember all of this because Canvas does have two. Okay, so not one, but two accessibility checkers built into it. One that's right here, right next to the rich text editor. And the second one down here is near the save button. All right, so you can always use those two to check your accessibility on your pages. And they're really good at kind of explaining what's wrong and giving you resources as to, you know, to learn more about how you can fix it. And finally, we have our own list, long list of resources here if you'd like to learn more about accessible design. These are some of the ones that we've handpicked for you. Okay, very last thing I just want to talk about is best practices. So we've reviewed all of the essential course design components, and now what are some things to keep in mind as you're doing it? So the first thing I want to remind you is to keep track of your published and unpublished course items. Please make sure to publish anything that you want your students to see and unpublish anything you don't want your students to see, especially if you use our template, which has, you know, a lot of these like placeholder things in them. Make sure to either delete or unpublish. Best practice number 2, which kind of ties into best practice number 1, is to see what students can see. Click on student view to check over your course to make sure that everything you need them to see is there. All right. And do that before you publish your course. The next 2 best practices have to do with more keeping your course clean and organized. So number 3 is to remove any assignments, quizzes, and discussions that you don't need. All right, so once again, with the template, you can delete those items. Finally, to keep your course navigation as simple as possible, make sure you disable any navigation items that you don't need. And you can do this directly in your course settings and navigation area. Okay. The next best practice has to do with designing the Canvas pages. If you ever accidentally delete something you didn't mean to, use Control-Z or Command-Z on your keyboard, and that's the undo button. And this is particularly important, once again, if you are working with our template pages and you hit backspace like too many times, sometimes that can delete like banners or things that you didn't mean to delete. So just make sure you undo. This leads to the next best practice, which is to save frequently. Canvas actually has a really nifty page history button that not that many people know about. So if you do accidentally blow up a page or erase something that you didn't mean to, you can easily backtrack by going into the page history, which tracks all of your saves. But if you do way too much work without saving, and then you need to backtrack, you could end up losing a lot if, you know, you didn't hit that save button. So save frequently. Okay. And regarding the course template, there are in the module section, If you scroll all the way to the bottom, there are these instructor resources that we have. So another best practice is really, take advantage of the things that we have here for you. We have this little nifty page, how to edit the Canvas template. So you have the slides, but if you don't happen to have the slides with you and you still wanted to kind of learn about how to edit each of these sections of the template, this will show you. So let's say the office hours page, right? It'll give you tips and tricks as to how to, like, what you need to consider or keep in mind as you're editing these pages. Okay. All right. And actually, I just want to skip down to, because we're going to cover this later on. So there is a slide here for additional visual design resources. If you'd like to, use different types of attribution-free imagery and icons and things like that, you can use to enhance your course.